Super Tuesday, the NXT edition. So by now you listened to most of the rest. Now, hear me. My opinion on quote-unquote Super Tuesday, NXT, which is the show that I choose to watch and I'm paid more attention to, basically because there was more talking. There was more things that I had to pay attention to than it was for AEW. I will say this before we get into the show. I do expect NXT to at least win the overall viewership. They may lose the 18-49, but I expect them to win the overall viewership. But if we're being honest, I think AEW had the better wrestling matches simply because they put better matches together. But that doesn't mean that NXT didn't have better stuff. They really did a good job of weaving in all the accoutrements that they brought into the show and giving a lot of rubs to younger talent. Brian Breaker was rubbed raw throughout this show. No real news and notes going into it. Let's just get right into it. Cody Rhodes starts the show with a big yeet because he's half of the Yeet Boys. He said something feels right standing in that ring. Said that the roads in Florida, they've bled all over the state. And he had 3 announcements. One, that there will be a men's breakout tournament after the women's. The second, there will be a Dusty Tag Team Classic tournament. And third, he is the special guest GM for tonight only, but he will still make matches for next week. I guess it's official as long as he was made this week. Ilya Dragunov came out, gave Cody a lot of credit, said he's always wanted to meet him. He admires Cody's passion, his energy, and his will to suffer for the fans. And Cody fights with fire and raises the level of everything he does. And Ilya Dragunov wants to do the same thing. Dominic Mysterio interrupted, said that nobody's here to see Cody. Nobody's here to see Ilya Dragunov. Everybody come to see him, the AA champion. So they get into a bit of an argument before it finally comes out that Dominic wants to fight Ilya Dragunov for the championship tonight. Cody suggests that the North American title be put on the line too, but Rhea Ripley interferes and says, no, Dominic's too busy carrying the rest of the company. She doesn't really want to do that. Cody looks like he was going to press the issue before Ilya Dragunov accepted the challenge on his own behalf. So Dominic did not have to put his title on the line in order to have this match. Now, this was smart. Dominic Mysterio is a draw on NXT. You put him on NXT, he seemingly bumps up viewership. So him being put on this show was a no-brainer. Them saying that the first 30 minutes of the show were going to be commercial free and then spending 15 minutes of it setting up one match. Now, they did, in a way, just give you a reason to pay attention for Cody to be there for the rest of the night. So I guess that's a positive. So they wanted to make sure that you were going to stick around and hang out for the rest of the show to see what was going to happen. So they tell the story that Cody is making matches for other people. Tony D'Angelo comes up with this goofy TNA idea of an over-the-top rope battle royal that still ends with 2 teams in the ring in a regular tag team match. I hate those battle royals. I hate when a battle royal transforms into something else. The bada bing, bada boom tag team smackaroo that they're going to have next week is a dumb idea. It should just be an over-the-top rope battle royal. Why have a regular tag team match if you're going to have a battle royal too? You shouldn't have both. But Cody was like, it's the kind of idea Dusty would have had. I love it. Let's do it. The kind of stuff that, Okay, I'm not going to say too much about Dusty booking. But let's say that Cody isn't much better. All right, so Cody's walking around, coming up with ideas. He gets confronted by Baron Corbin. Says that Baron Corbin has been Baron Corbin, I should say. He didn't confront Cody quite yet. But he did start his bickering earlier in the night by saying that Ilya Dragunov is picking a fight with Dominic Mysterio because it's a fight he knows that he can win. And that Ilya Dragunov's intensity is phony. He's been ducking him. He's the only man to put Ilya Dragunov down. And Ilya is running scared. So Ilya Dragunov, as he's complaining, the match is starting because now LA Knight, who was made the special guest referee to keep out Judgment Day, he's the special Judgment Day wrangler on this show. So out of nowhere, LA Knight was brought onto this show to be the special guest referee, and LA Knight referees in jeans, a black leather jacket, boots, Timberland boots, apparently, and shades. That's how you know he was definitely prepared to be a special guest referee. Look, come on, brother. They just decided we're going to do something. Now, at least the special guest referee idea makes sense because of Judgment Day. Everybody knows Judgment Day is going to get involved. You need a stronger than usual, more alert referee. That being said, I feel like we've been doing the special guest referee gimmick a lot on NXT. Didn't they just do one where Dragon Lee was a special guest referee? I feel like we've been doing that a lot. I don't think we need to have any more special guest referees, but I'm going to give them a pass. It's a little much, but it's Super Tuesday, I suppose. Super Tuesday. So clearly not wanting to be a referee, LA Knight has come out there to referee this match. Ilya Dragunov and Dominic Mysterio have a solid match. I enjoyed it. I always enjoy Dominic's matches because while he's not great, he clearly knows how to get what he's doing over, and he knows how to get his opponent over. Like, he nailed Dragonov with a chop, and everybody in the arena was like, ooh, you fucked up. You fucked. And he went and got his ass beat. So Judgment Day, of course, tries to interfere. Finn Balor, JD McDonough, Irish people are just falling from the sky. LA Knight starts ducking them, punching them, knocking them all over the place. Rhea Ripley tries to hit Dragunov in the head with her belt. She's snatched down and carried off by Trick Williams. And then Ilya Dragunov hits Torpedo Moscow and gets the pin. So Dragunov wins. Okay. We knew that was going to happen. But this was about basically furthering the Trick Williams, Dragunov, Trick Williams, Dominic Mysterio story, and wrangling Judgment Day. That's pretty much what this whole thing was about. After the match, Baron Corbin comes to the ring because he's got something he wants to say to Ilya Dragunov. And then Donovan Dijak attacks Dragunov from behind, beats him up. Then he leans over and tells Corbin, I got to him first. He's mine. And I was like, oh no. Look, I know there's a lot of people who really like Dijak. I know, trust me. I'm just not one of them. If Dijak has 100 fans, I'm standing on the other side. If he's got 50 fans, I'm standing on the other side. If he's got 150,000 fans, I'm still on the other side. I am anti Donovan Dijakovic, Donovan Dijak. I don't care what you call him. It's the same guy, and he is boring. I don't care what you call him. All right? He's boring. He sucks. This big boss man thing he's doing now, he's no big boss man. All right? He's not even a Mountie. I don't like this guy. He sucks. But he can have a good match. So I guess, and he can have a good physical match. So if you're into the physicality of the match, which, could get over with me, I guess Dragunov versus Dijak would be fun. But we're not going to get that match anyway, because when Baron Corbin decided he was going to go bitch about it to Cody, Cody decided, well, you made a good point of why you should be the number one contender, but Donovan Dijak, he made a good point too. And I could make the argument that the winner of Braun Breaker and Carmelo Hayes should also get a chance at the championship. And so that was the plan. Baron Corbin didn't like it, but he wasn't in control. So Cody Rhodes makes the decision that the winner of Braun Breaker and Carmelo Hayes was going to wrestle Baron Corbin and Donovan Dijakovic in a triple threat match, the winner of which we'll get the championship match at Halloween Havoc. I was like, oh my God, more triple threat matches. Now, this, for starters, this one's even worse than before because, for Christ's sake, we got to deal with Dijakovic and Baron Corbin. Holy hell, bro. Oh my God. And I'm looking at this thing and saying, I know Dijak is going to win. I just know he's going to win. Look, there's no way we win. We're going to lose. The NXT universe, us, me, you, the people who care about this, we're going to take an L out of this, all right? Because Dijak sucks, Corbin sucks, and Carmelo Hayes just lost. So it's going to be either Corbin or Dijak. And if you put a gun to my head, Mongo, which one, you got to pick one, Baron Corbin or Donovan Dijak. Dijak. All right, Dijak. Because at least the match will be good. Baron Corbin, I'm not even sure that the match is going to be any good. We know the promos ain't going to be worth a damn. But at least the match will be good if it's Dragonov and Dijak. That sucks. That was no good. So in preparation for our main event, John Cena comes out there earlier in the evening to cut a promo. This is where we get the first of our mini Braun Breaker rubs. He goes on a completely 120,000% babyface run about how much he loves NXT, how much he respects everybody, and it's an honor to share space with all the fans and all this stuff, and how much he's here because he respects Carmelo Hayes. And then Braun Breaker interrupts, says that the people are not here to see John Cena. They're here to see him. And then John Cena says that Braun Breaker's going to be the guy one day, but he lacks respect. But he didn't come down here to NXT to run him down. So he says he wants to respectfully wish him luck. And the crowd is singing, Braun Breaker sucks. Braun Breaker sucks. And John Cena's like, I know that song, but it's better to when the lyrics are different. So I got that. That was pretty funny. So Braun Breaker looked like he was going to shake John Cena's hand, and he punched him in the head. He was then going to spear John Cena. Cena ducked it, revealing his almighty ball spot. He scooped up Braun Breaker, but Braun Breaker wiggled free and fled. So, okay, we see that Braun Breaker got a cheap shot in on Cena. Later, Cena is backstage with Carmelo Hayes when Trick Williams shows up. Trick Williams, of course, is celebrating, and John Cena's there. Trick Williams introduced himself to John Cena. Melo apologized to Trick for not being there last week when the whole Judgment Day thing, said, hey, I thought you had it handled. You told me. I left. And Trick Williams was like, hey, man, you don't got to talk about this in front of John Cena. We are an important company here. You know, just kind of, that's some other conversation for another time. So they both say they're going to win their championships back. Carmelo's going to win his NXT championship back, while Trick Williams, you're going to be North American champion again. And then Trick Williams is kind of like, oh yeah, North American champion. Yeah, you're right. You're right about that, I guess. So once Carmelo leaves, Trick Williams looks to John Cena and says, I got to ask you a question. And Cena's like, okay, go for it. How do you know when it was your time? And everybody's like, ooh, because now Trick he's scheming to go higher. So it seemed like last week they were teasing that Carmelo might turn on Trick. Now they're teasing that Trick might turn on Carmelo. And that Trick has aspirations and ambitions that are beyond the North American title. So Cena and Trick, they walk and talk to try to figure that thing out. I would have liked to have seen that conversation or heard it. You know, how did Cena know when it was his time? And how that can fit into the story about how Trick probably feels about himself right now. Even though, you know, you think Trick should want revenge on Judgment Day. He should want more revenge. I don't know. Maybe he's chasing waterfalls, as TLC once said. But it was an interesting note I would have liked for them to dig into a little bit. So that was the last time we saw John Cena before the main event. Paul Heyman was also a part of the main event. Paul Heyman showed up earlier in the evening. He didn't really do much of anything, but on the X Twitter machine, or Twitter X, or whatever we're calling it, he went and talked to Ava Raine. And he was melting apparently into a chair with his cell phone pointed at Ava Raine, reading to her the words bloodline. Hey, everybody, bloodline. Look, I'm pointing to bloodline, and Ava Raine is Samoan. And she's like, what, 25% Samoan or whatever. So she looks a little pensive over the whole idea, but she didn't say one thing or another. And then we get probably a really good promo from Paul Heyman. Brian Breaker's backstage. He's pumping it up. And Paul Heyman comes in and he's talking about he has all this experience with the Steiners, with his dad and with his uncle. And he's got the best elements of both. And that Brian Breaker is a future main event of WrestleMania. The only thing standing in his way is Carmelo Hayes. So Brian Breaker says that he doesn't care who it is that stands in his way. He's going to break them all. And then Paul wants to call Roman Reigns. So he calls Roman Reigns, which is kind of an explanation as to why certain people popped up in this here main event. Main event of the evening, Brian Breaker, Carmelo Hayes. The winner goes on to a triple threat match against Donovan Dijak, and Baron Corbin. So the winner loses. Solid enough match. I mean, these guys work well together. Unfortunately, Brian Breaker was trying to cheat, and John Cena stopped him. He picked up the stairs. Cena kicked him in the knee and took the chair, the steps. Then out of nowhere, Solo Sikoa comes out, and John Cena hit Solo Sikoa with the stairs, but Solo Sikoa doesn't take a bump. He doesn't even fall down. And Cena and Solo are fighting. They fight off. Heyman is like, "Oh my God, Solo!" And he waddles off to find Solo. That leaves Brian Breaker in the ring alone, slightly distracted. Carmelo Hayes hits his finish, and Carmelo Hayes wins the match. Oh my God. It seems like Brian Breaker has lost every fucking match that he's had since he turned heel. Has he won a match since he turned heel? Jesus, they are beating this kid to paste. My goodness, what the fuck? Anyway, after the match, Brian spears Carmelo Hayes and then tells Carmelo Hayes that there is only one badass in WWE, whether he wins or loses. This is the trigger for the big gong, and I keep forgetting that the actual phenom, dead man Undertaker, is no more. That anytime they say Undertaker's going to be there now, it's going to be the American Badass. So he comes out in his little bike. He's not walking it, praise God. He's not doing much better than walking it because, the performance center isn't that big. But he actually drives the thing around. He gets in the ring with Braun, and Taker and Braun stand, he's sizing them up. Taker's much bigger than Braun. Braun's not that tall. Taker gets on the microphone and says that, Braun speaks first, calls him an old timer, and says that he is the new badass around here. So Undertaker says, look, I've been watching you for a while. You're going to be a very special talent one day. But it ain't going to be today. So then he punches Braun Breaker in the head, choke slams him. Monster reaction for all of this. People are very, very excited. Carmelo Hayes is skinning and grinning over there in the corner. Everybody's having a blast at Braun Breaker's. It's his misfortune. Then Undertaker gets on the microphone again and says that there's always going to be somebody older, bigger, badder, and you just met the baddest of them all. And that was it as we go off the air for NXT. Braun Breaker got beat up by Undertaker. This wouldn't have been so bad if he'd have won the match. I don't like that element, like him getting beat up by Undertaker because he lost the match. If he'd have punched out John Cena and then you built up the heat that you wanted to see him get his ass kicked, and then he beat Carmelo Hayes, So you're like, damn, we didn't even see him get his ass, Cena's not there to get his lick back, even though Cena kicked him in the leg. That was pretty much nothing. But we didn't, I guess he did get his lick back technically, but, they didn't really blow off too much of his heat. But with him getting pinned, losing the match, kind of looked goofy losing the match and still calling yourself a badass. And then you get chokeslammed by an old man. Again, they're not doing Brian the best, but it was a great rub. He got to work with John Cena. He got to work with Undertaker. Paul Heyman. It was some really good stuff here for Brian. I just wish that some of it would have made him look good. The only person that made him look good was Heyman. Undertaker put him over a little bit. Cena put him over a little bit. But he needed to be, elevated, I think. And I think having another loss to Carmelo Hayes does not help. Because if you watch NXT regularly, then you've seen this kid lose pretty much every match since he turned heel. But if you watched NXT specifically because all these guys were going to be on it, and that's something to deeply consider, then you try to ask yourself what's so special about Brian Breaker. He didn't knock and take out John Cena or nothing like that. He didn't take anybody out. He didn't even win his match. You saying that, he's a badass, but then he lost to fucking Baron Corbin. Then he lost to fucking this guy too. It's like, you can do stuff like he get chokeslammed, he catches the AA, he gets beat up. If he's got heat. I don't think Brian Breaker has enough credibility in the position that he is in right now to be able to withstand all of this. They basically treat him like The Miz. All right? He's The Miz, except he's supposed to be mean. And then they're not saving much of anything for Von Wagner, who is the person he's supposed to be feuding with, really. Like, he's losing to this guy, he's getting beat up by this person, he's being ping-pong balled all over the Performance Center, and yet, what is Von Wagner, the guy who he caved his head in, what is he going to get out of fighting and beating Brian Breaker? Fuck, everybody's done it. You get what I'm saying? So, I didn't like that element, but I'm pretty sure it was very cool for Brian Breaker to get the rub, and I enjoyed that too. I thought that was very nice. I don't know why Brian Breaker's skin color is the way it is. Like, why he looks like a cinnamon roll every week. I mean, I don't know what him and Cora Jade are up to with that tannin solution in that tannin salon, but they're making Hogan smile with the orangeness of the skin. I mean, Randy Savage and all these guys are like, oh yeah, nice tan, brother. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why he's so orange. He's just hellaciously orange. All right, so that was basically the main event stuff. Carmelo Hayes goes the smallest man in this match against Baron Corbin and Dijak, which means he'll probably win it, knowing Shawn Michaels. All right, moving on. Finally, Roxanne Perez versus Asuka. The match was, it was okay. I would have expected more and expected it to be better. Shotzi came out there. She was very random. She came out like she was shot out of a cannon. Like, she's everywhere except for where she's supposed to be. She announced on commentary that she and Scarlett will be hosting night 1 of Halloween Havoc. All right, so Scarlett's actually going to be doing something. I forgot she even worked there. And I know most people did too. Roxanne Perez and Asuka had an okay match. Asuka wins the match with a roundhouse kick. It was okay, I guess. Kiana James tried to attack Roxanne Perez after the match. Shotzi saved her, beat up Kiana James. It was kind of sloppy. Like, I don't know what Shotzi was trying to do. It looked like it might have been like a Fisherman Buster, like a version of the Perfect Plex or something like that. But it took her literally forever to set it up. I don't know. I honestly do not know. Anyway, all the girls backstage wanted to introduce themselves to Asuka. So Blair Davenport and Fallon Henley. I don't know, why is Blair Davenport being so respectful to Asuka? She's trying to speak Japanese and everything. I thought Blair Davenport was like a mean, vicious bitch. Now she's like, Domo arigato, Asuka-san. And I'm like, what? Where did that come from? Why are you a mark all of a sudden? Fallon Henley, okay, she can be a mark. She's trying to meet Asuka, and Tiffany Stratton cuts in her way, and, she does her thing about, we're both dominant champions, and Asuka's just standing there like, okay, sure. Like she's almost like a cardboard cutout. It's like all the stuff is happening around Asuka. So, Tiffany Stratton basically started a fight with Fallon Henley. They didn't actually go to blows, but she was being very rude. And Fallon Henley said, what, your daddy didn't teach you manners? And Tiffany was like, no. And that just got like people actually laughed because it was a good answer to the question. Like, did your daddy teach you good manners? She's like, nope. And just toddled on out. Toodles. I'm like, God damn. Asuka looked like she was trying to get out of that room. Like she was trying to smash a panic button to get out of that room. It was what the hell? When Asuka appeared in NXT, apparently on Twitter they gave her a replica of her NXT championship, the one that Saraya skizzed all over. Well, Saraya didn't skizz all over it. It was actually the job guy she was fucking nutted all over it. And then she took a picture of it. She allowed a picture to be taken while it was covered in yeet. And then all of a sudden, she got hacked and it was everywhere. Literally, I think about 2 hours later, Asuka had a brand new belt. So that's when you had the new NXT championship, the big plate. So they gave Asuka, I'm pretty sure she had one already, but they gave her another replica of it. But this match was interesting because it was Roxanne Perez trying to beat Asuka, be the first person to beat Asuka in NXT and all this kind of stuff. But the reason why I gave it a meh and I didn't think it was great, Asuka at one point was sort of bullying Roxanne Perez, pushing her with her foot and all this kind of stuff. And that's supposed to lead to Roxanne Perez firing up, right? But her offense, it lacks passion. It lacks intensity. It just like, ah! I'm like, oh my God, this sucks so bad. It does not look like a girl in a fight. It looks like she's play fighting. I don't like that. There's that element of that in the women's division in NXT where those women don't have any weight behind their punches or their kicks or their strikes. This wasn't the only match in which this happened in. All right, it happened in the Breakout tournament match too with Danny Palmer, where her strikes looked like they were absolutely awful. Like she probably couldn't knock an egg off a baby's forehead. I mean, you couldn't move nothing with those attacks. And it's just, it takes you out of it because Asuka's such a physical performer that if you are working light with her or you working too light, it makes Asuka look terrible, And in a way, that's kind of what happened here. All right, the next match on the show was a pub rules match where the Gallus boys fought the Brawling Brutes and Tyler Bate because Tyler Bate is still a babyface for some reason. Enough's enough, Sean. Tyler Bate has no gas. There's nothing in him. That you can't not get nothing else out of this guy. He is a rind at this point. He tried to squeeze that lemon, ain't nothing else in it. Turn him heel at the very least, or send him to SmackDown or something. This enough's enough. Anyway, this match was typical no disqualification thing. It was okay. But I had to laugh when they got the darts and Joe Coffey gets stabbed in the hand with the darts, but his fist is like heavily taped and the dart is in between his fingers. So it's nowhere near his fingers, for starters. He did a good job of like balling his hand up and trying to cover it up. But once you see like his hand is a whole mitten of white, you know that he didn't get stabbed in his hand. But the visual is fine, I guess. I mean, depending on your stomach for those kinds of obvious fakeries. The match ended up being, it was what it was. I don't really have an attachment to it. Powerbomb through the glass for the Brawling Brutes, and they won the match. Okay, at least these guys have been feuding for a while, and they highlighted them on the show. It was fine, I guess. An absolutely fantastic promo between Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch is played, showing the parallels between the two. Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch come from the same town. Becky Lynch, the first Irish woman to be signed from WWE. Lyra Valkyria was the second. Telling the story of how Lyra Valkyria was inspired by Becky Lynch and watched Becky Lynch's rise to the top, thinking that one day it could be her too. And then in 2018, Becky Lynch, is now a big star. She's going to turn around and give back, and she's going over to Ireland, and she's got a training seminar or a camp or something like that. And Lyra Valkyria was a part of that camp and showed them in the ring together and all this kind of stuff. It was really good. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. It was one of the better things on this show. Then it immediately goes to a promo for Lyra Valkyria, who, wants to talk about this. And she's interrupted by Tegan Nox. And Tegan Nox says, look, I had her beat. I know I can beat Becky Lynch. I was this close to beating Becky Lynch. I need you to postpone your match with Becky Lynch so that I can get a rematch. And then Lyra Valkyria was like, no, I've been waiting for this match my whole career. I'm not about to just give this match away for you. And so Tegan Nox was standing there looking stupid because, of course, she was going to say no. You didn't have a retort for that. But they're showing you now that Tegan Nox is now going to become obsessed with the championship. And she's going to start hunting Becky Lynch. And she might even start a feud with Lyra Valkyria. She may even interfere in that match. All right. Okay. Tegan Nox should probably be on NXT anyway, if we're being honest, right? Anything to keep her away from Natalya. That succubus. Anything to get her away from Natalya. All right, the fourth match on the show was the Women's Breakout Tournament match. Lola Vice versus Danny Palmer. Danny Palmer is a fabulous, very agile athlete. But her punches and kicks and stuff are the most obviously see-through fake shit you probably have ever seen in a wrestling ring. It's absolutely awful. And she's always smiling. I think she's just having fun in there, Booker T even mentioned it on commentary, like, what are you smiling for? It ain't the time for that. I'm like, Lola Vice breaks out some really cool submissions. And she ends up winning, not with a submission hold, but via pinfall. This is fine. Lola Vice goes to the next, I think this is the quarterfinal match, so she goes to the semis now. All right, fine, sure, no problem. I like Danny Palmer. She's a recruit. It's gonna take some time. She's gonna have to learn how to put some sauce on these attacks that she's doing. Same thing for Roxanne Perez. I know that the girls are pretty and they're young, and you don't want to give them cauliflower ear and teaching them to black each other's eyes and everything. But if you're gonna teach them to throw punches, then they need to throw a fucking punch. Like, please, something that resembles a punch, for Christ's sake. Lola Vice knows how to throw a punch. She's an MMA fighter, so she has to pull her punches more than anything. Jade Cargill made an appearance. She was wearing this beautiful pink thing, and all she did was shake hands with Shawn Michaels. It just felt like Kevin Garnett and Uncut Gems. Why you keep showing me things I can't have it? Like, you keep bringing her out here, and we can't do nothing with her. I forgot to mention this, but I'm going to mention it now. Dominic Mysterio was pretty upset about losing, and he ends up running into this gaggle of weirdos that are the mid-card of NXT. So, like, Axiom standing there, and Nathan Fraser's there. It's a gaggle of people. So, Dominic Mysterio's like, who the hell's this guy talking to me? Because Nathan Fraser's making fun of him. Rhea Ripley says, from what I see, it's a nobody. Nathan Fraser then says under his breath that Dominic Mysterio is a phony or a fraud or something like that. But he didn't hear it because he walked away anyway. So Dominic Mysterio's next feud is not with Trick Williams. It's going to be with Nathan Fraser. Okay. Look, Nathan Fraser is a guy who he needs a gimmick outside of I run fast. So he can work with Dominic for sure. That's great. I just don't know why this thing with Trick Williams is over. Like, they feel like they got one more in them, you know, in terms of a top level heel and a top level baby face. They just 1-1 and that's it. We just walk away with it, you know. I know it helped the Trick Williams story, but I don't know. It felt like we should finish that one way or the other, you know. But maybe it is finished. Maybe that's the way they want it. They want to keep it 1-1. So Thea Hale, she goes back to class, and JC Jane goes with her, and JC Jane's being disruptive. She's breaking out her phone in class, and they're chatting and talking, cross-talking, while Andre Chase trying to teach the hollowed history of Halloween Havoc, and nobody seems to care. Then some other guy breaks out his phone too, and then Andre Chase cusses that kid out, smashes the kid's phone, which is hilarious. And it turns out that JC Jane was showing Thea Hale that Andre Chase and Duke Hudson will be in the Bada Bing Bada Room Battle Royal. That's what they were talking about. And she had to deliver the good news. But the guy got his phone destroyed. So he was very unhappy. And his facial expression, he was like, bro, my phone. That was pretty funny. But JC Jane's going to continue coming to class to be disruptive. And that was fine. All right, let's close with the one thing that got the internet buzzing. The Brian Pillman Jr. promo. They finally, of course, they revealed him last week in a USA Network press release. So over the past couple of days, people have been trying to figure out whether he's going to keep his name or if he's going to get a new name. Then the name came out that Lexus King was going to be his name. And I raised my eyebrow and I was like, Lexus King? And then people kind of broke it down that he had a stepfather who had the last name King. And I think the man passed away. I think the man's dead or something like that. And he had a sister named Alexis who passed away. And I was like, okay, so he's going to name himself after these people. I was not thrilled by a man named Lexus, but okay. So then they do the promo where they reveal that he is the son of Brian Pillman right off the jump. They didn't hide it. They didn't run from it. But then they gave it a nice little twist. They said everybody has such fond memories of my father. Everybody stops me, talks about how much they love my father. But everybody has these fond memories except me. I lost him when I was 4 years old. I don't know him. Then he talks about the business, this being the last thing he's ever wanted to do, but it's in his blood. This business has given him nothing but grief. And he says that he's nobody's junior. And when you see this face, you should think about me, not him. He's going to use the name going forward of the real man who raised him, his real father, and his name was King. And so is mine. And I was like, bro, whoa. There's a lot to unpack there, brother. You know, that's a whopper. Okay, like, now, I don't know how true it is. Like, I don't know the Brian Pillman Jr. family history. I don't know what his stepfather was like or anything like that. But the factual statement is he did not grow up with his father. He was a child when his father died. And he doesn't have the same memories that other people would have. And that is and can be something that is a sore spot for a child. I mean, how many of us can really understand what that feels like? You know, some of us have had dead parents, you know, where you never got a chance to meet your father and other people met him. You look just like your daddy, but you never met him before, you know, or, you know, your daddy used to act like that too, but you never met him before. And it does have that stuff that'll have you on a daytime talk show. You know, you be sitting on Caramano's couch or some shit, crying your eyeballs out about how you never met your father and all this kind of shit, right? You know, Dr. Phil segments or whatever. But then imagine your dad was a celebrity and he died when you were young. And you have all these people. We have all these memories about him. People that he worked with in places that you worked too. He worked in AEW. How many of those people worked with Brian Pillman? So many of those guys, from guys like Jericho to guys like Jim Ross. He probably heard that so much. And yeah, I could see how it would build up within you and it would cause a problem. And maybe wanting to disassociate from that a little bit, you know? And I think I'm looking at it as a situation that's decidedly different. It's one thing for it to be WWE and they're just trying to not tarnish the legacy, right? That's what they did with Charlotte. That's what they did with Brian Breaker. We don't know how good this kid is. We want them to come up with their own identity, come up with their own name, and then maybe we'll come up with and tell people who your father is and stuff like that if you prove yourself to be good enough. In this situation, we're going to be very upfront about it. Tell everybody who your father is. But we're going to disassociate from it by saying you have no relationship with him. You may look like him, but you have no relationship with him at all outside of this business. And this business is a very sore spot for you because it's in your blood. It's what you were born to do. But it's not a positive thing for you. You know, it's not like it's one of those things where he felt like he was compelled to do something that he doesn't want to do, but still feels like he needs to do it. But if he's going to do it, he's not going to give the man he didn't know the credit. He's going to give the other man that raised him the credit. And I looked at that and said, that's very interesting. How many times have WWE actually went out there, said that this person is the daughter of somebody, and decided, I think they only done it like twice. Like they went out there and told everybody that Curtis Axel was Mr. Perfect's son and then changed his name, you know, and then it came up with Michael McGillicuddy, then Curtis Axel, and it was stupid, you know, but it was clear that they made it known that he was the son of Mr. Perfect. In this situation, but they weren't running away from it. They were doing something that was Curtis is Mr. Perfect's first name. Axel was for his grandfather, Larry the Axe Hennig. So he was basically trying to carry the legacy of his father and his grandfather as a third generation wrestler. Here, Brian Pillman is trying to disassociate. He doesn't, and it's not a situation where WWE is disassociating on his behalf, where he wants to tell everybody who his father is, or he has no shame of it. It's coming across almost like he's angry about it. He's frustrated that he was the son of this guy, but he doesn't have the same relationship to wrestling that other second generation wrestlers have. And I feel like that's very creative. You know, that's pretty creative. I like that. I'm not thrilled about the name. The name Lexus King sucks. That name fucking sucks. But if they can keep this character where he kind of doesn't want to be known as the son of Brian Pillman, but that is how everybody know him, and that's a source of aggravation for him, that could be something. That could be interesting. I mean, I've always kind of in my head, there is somebody else, let's say, who is a wrestler in WWE, whose father was also a wrestler, but because their father was a jobber, that person is never mentioned. And it's Carmelo. Carmelo's dad wrestled for the WWF in the past. He was a jobber. It's never mentioned. Only people, like, I learned it through the Stan accounts. That's how I know it. But, because the Stan accounts, they know everything. But I always thought, like, that's such an interesting story element. It's different. It's like the reverse Charlotte Flair. Like, when your dad is the most famous wrestler of all time, her father is a unknown job guy. Like, how, this is where the Vince Russo brain would actually work, you know? Where you would be like, fuck, we should be using that. We should be having Carmella's dad on TV. Like, or how she, in her highfalutin character, she's a little bit embarrassed of him because he never won anything. He never did anything. So she never talks about him. And he kind of pops up and people find videos, or maybe it's exposed. Like, Carmelo's going to get exposed, and somebody like a Charlotte or somebody like that exposes that Carmelo's dad was a jobber. That, she's second generation, but she's afraid of telling everybody who her father is because he's a loser. That could be something that could be so powerful in terms of story that you can tell. And just imagine the sympathy that you could create with Carmelo, with that character, the Princess of Staten Island, how all of it's phony because her dad was basically this blue collar, boots and jeans, showed up to work, got beat up, and well, at least I got paid, and that kind of thing. Like that could be like he was battling Jack Murdoch or something like that. You have to know Daredevil to know that, but that could be so much fun. Like there's so many different things you can do with the second generation wrestlers that sometimes doing the whole, this is in my blood, it's my legacy, and I'm going to take it to the next level, blah, 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 blah. It's like, yeah, we've seen that with The Rock and Charlotte and Randy and all those people. We've seen that with 100 different people. But how many people have we seen whose dad was a jobber and they got into the business anyway? And they now have to basically be like, kind of shying away from who their father is, or their father died before they were born, or shortly after they were born, or something like that. Like the Brian Pillman situation, where there was no real relationship between the two. Like that, you can do very creative things other than Nepo baby wrestler. And I hate using that Nepo baby stuff because it's a really stupid term. But instead of going that route with it, you can do different things with the second generation wrestlers that can be creative and different. People have different relationships with their parents. People have different relationships with what their parents did and how they choose to do the same thing. Your dad's a doctor, you a doctor too, but you're a pediatrician and he's a surgeon. It's a different area of expertise, or the dad never wanted you to get into the business, that kind of thing. There's a lot of different ways you can go into this. So by going in a different direction for Brian Pillman Jr., they're actually making him more interesting. Because all the AEW fans, the only thing they've been talking about is, he's going to come out and say, my dad is Brian Pillman. Then what? What is he going to do then? It's like, okay, he came out, said his father was Brian Pillman, but he doesn't have any relationship with his father. And it seems to be, if you actually pay attention to the promo, a source of aggravation, a source of tension there that he hasn't worked through. There are some elements there that could lead to further stories. Yeah, I like that. NXT is run by somebody who worked with his dad, Shawn Michaels. If you've ever read the book Crazy Like a Fox, Brian Pillman, one of the things he wanted to do when he was trying to get into the WWF was jump the barricade and attack Shawn Michaels. Like that was one of the things that he had came up with as ideas to get himself on WWF TV. And there's a lot of things that you could play with there in terms of Brian Pillman. So this could be fun. You got Natalya there. I know I hate to use that, but the Hart family thing that you could play with since she's there. There's some stuff that you can play with there with Brian Pillman. And this ought to be good. Maybe Natalya knew his dad. She's older than he is. She's, I think, is she 10 years older than he is? Maybe a little bit older. But maybe she has memories of his dad that he doesn't have, and they can have a situation where she's trying to tell him about him. He's like, I don't want to hear that. I'm enough. I'm tired of hearing about him. I don't want to talk about that. And she tries to mentor him. And you're like, look, I'm coming up with storylines for Natalya, for fuck's sake. But I'm rambling also. All right, focus up. NXT. The Lyra Valkyria Becky Lynch program was absolutely excellent. Brian Pillman program, absolutely excellent. Really good match between Brian Breaker and Carmelo Hayes. Enjoyed it. I think the wrong guy won, but whatever. Dijak versus Dragonov. I'm not thrilled with it, but it's better than another match with Carmelo, which we've seen 2 or 3 of those already. And I don't want Baron Corbin anywhere near the title picture. Dominic Mysterio losing. Dominic Mysterio can lose every week and it won't matter. Dominic Mysterio versus Nathan Frazer, however, okay, that's all right. It's solid. The Asuka match suffers from Roxanne Perez not knowing how to throw strikes. If they just did a grappling match, it probably would have been better. But because Roxanne Perez doesn't have any babyface fire, and the crowd was booing her, which I forgot to talk about earlier, she was getting booed. The same thing with Lola Vice and Danny Palmer. Danny Palmer's a great athlete. She just doesn't have any ferocity in her strikes, and she just seems to be happy to be there. Didn't give a shit about any of those Europeans and that falling all over each other match. I didn't care, I didn't care about that at all. But Halloween Havoc is going to be fun. NXT, it's still a fun show. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out. Yee.